Okay, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another, I guess, still globally, culturally new, Mr. Within lecture. And so, in these past few days, I have had some incredible context shifting. And the world has, in some sense, a new depth of it has opened up for me, and I want to share this with the viewers. One is this idea of the divine cognitive fields, and that is such an important idea. And the other is me explaining to you something so deep that it's as if like I realized it today in this fashion and my life changed. That means today I honestly heard it in this like radio thing, right? But it was like not in the context like I'm sharing now, but the idea was pretty much like death is not the end, God is. And I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. My whole life, the fear of death has possessed me. And you're telling me that all the time in this lifetime that has gone to my fear of death, do you know? That's not the final moment. Do you know? And to be honest, I would say many religious people and Muslims would agree. I am Muslim. I consider this world has a system admin beyond the system. I consider we're inside a simulated testing zone within a divine surveillance state. There's nothing normal about normality. The way life moves is way more fascinating and way more advanced than how human beings are acknowledging it. Like the average human being, you're like, what are you? It's like, buddy, I'm a body, I got a mind, and nobody knows what the soul is. Right? So that kind of attitude. That means most people acknowledge themselves as like they're this unknown moment of awareness that within it finds itself, and with what it finds itself, it's like you find your body, and then you find the governing force of this body, which is your mind. Your mind is based on purpose. So let me tell you, when I was young, I was drawn to, like, I remember my parent, how would I say it, like in any video game or something we would play. I have a twin brother, right? When we were really young growing up, I would always choose like the kind of airbender, the mage that could control the elements. Do you know what I mean? The wizard with the staff, like all of that. There was something fascinating there for me, right? Always that sort of archetype. Why? Because it was an archetype that had access to a power beyond the accessible reality. Do you know? That means if the person was skilled and incredible ability, if the person's not skilled, it's like, man, life's gonna be tough. You know? I'm talking about the mage archetype, okay? Now, anyways, what the reason I'm saying that is because I was fascinated by ability. Now the point I'm trying to make here giving this lecture is to be like, guys, little did I know. If somebody says, hey, you might not know what the meaning of life is. However, I, as a human being, I can claim it. I mean, by me sharing it to you now, you'll probably see it, that like understand what I mean. I know what animates souls. That means it doesn't matter if you put whatever amount of human beings in front of me. Doesn't mean I have like the personality and the charisma and in some sense the kind of like, you know, yeah, egoic, like juggernaut of an Iron Man suit to kind of go lead the modern man's ego. You know? To me, I'm trying to make this point that we are living currently in a world where the individual conscious archetype is projecting its meaning onto everything. I'll explain to you what that means. Just give me a second, guys. Alright, whatever, let's go. This was the first song I was playing. I changed it. So, here it goes. It's like, ladies and gentlemen, as a human being in human history in the year 2025, I'm like, all right, human species, I've somehow built up the confidence and the courage to come and talk about not just the past of our species, not just the present, but in actuality, how the value of reality can be based on the future. You know, and so really that hilarious thing I was trying to tell you, like, yo man, how does a mage control the elements? My youthful mind was thinking like that. Now when I look at every day of my life, I see souls that are animate. I see pretty much unknown forces of life in a sort of organized display moving in reality. And let me tell you what moves people, aside from like physically pushing them. See, I want to talk about, I'm that guy who's like, everybody in human history, pause and relax. There's something we should consider, like like we should have this outlook in like everyday life, that there's something known as the divine cognitive field, right? And people are going to be like, what, man? Are you trying to be that guy who tries to connect divinity to, in some sense, academia? You know? And I'll be like, it's one of those things where, how do I explain to you? This song is too jolly for me to explain how simulated reality is. Like, hold on, guys. Let me find a song that's kind of like, it has the eeriness of a been there vibe. All right. So, it's time to legit give a lecture right now, They're like, how aware is Mr. Within of reality? He's so aware that he's questioning why he's even giving a lecture right now. All right. So, to be serious, I am making two viewpoints here. We're going to go through them one by one, okay? And I'm going to start by what's in the subtitle. I'm not going to talk about the divine cognitive fields, right? But it's a very important idea, and I'll explain to you like why it's significant, and then it's up to your mind how else you perceive. You know? I consider myself, by the way, nobody's like, that's why it's called Mr. Within. I'm not some like, I'm treating myself in the simplest presence of my being, right? And in some sense, today I was just driving, guys, and for a moment, midway driving, there was this song. I forget the name of the band, but it was like some next level. And because I'm like, when I'm like, let's say I gotta rush somewhere, right, and I'm in the car, I don't listen usually to, like, the modern, like, radio stations. There's just this one Christian radio station, right, where I'm like, okay, I rather listen to songs about praising, the original power of reality, as a simulated being, rather than, it's funny. It's like one radio channel, it's like you're listening to rap, which is like what is it? It's like a sort of hedonistic abomination, of a sort of finding value in regards to external display, but really the true value is in the advancement of all of us. That means I've reached that point, right? I think all everybody who goes towards the path, they say the path of knowledge. What does that mean? You're trying to know things, right? And why are you trying to know things, right? It's like, why, man? Why go learn so much about so many different things, right? And at the same time, you kind of realize it's on some. How do I explain it to you? The main point I'm trying to make is that what I figured out, and it's not something I figured out, it's just there. What animates a soul, that means if you want to compare energy levels, people think energy levels are just based on the body. No, 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 no. True energy levels are based on fear. Do you know what that means? That means like somebody like could like act like a fool somewhere and people are gonna be like, what a foolish person. Do you know? But imagine like that person's always, everybody's thinking they're a fool. Suddenly when an emergency happens, when the shock of fear arises, do you understand? That person is no longer a fool. That person has become, in some sense, how do I explain it to you? So anyways, I was in the car, you know, and I think I just remembered the lyrics. Maybe people can go find this and tell me later what the name of the song was. But it was like, death is not the end, you are, and it was like talking about God, right? But it was talking about Jesus, because in the Christian view, they see Christ as God, like literally God himself, right? But as a Muslim, it's all about like understanding what we choose to be the parameters that filters the truth, like the meaning of truth, right? That means for a Muslim, truth is not anything that can have a shape. For example, for Christians, if Christ was God, right? If God was Christ, and like if I don't know how to explain it, like from man's view, Christ was God. From God's view, like God was being Christ, there was no son and father. Do you know? That means, what are you saying, right? Because that's the thing I think about Christianity. I think there is actually nothing wrong with Christianity, only the fact that they haven't deep like observed it deeper. Because when you observe it deeper, if you believe Christ is God, so when you see Christ, you're saying, okay, that form is God, right? And at the same time, in, let's say, this is, I guess, modern Christianity, where they have the trio of the Son, the Father, and the Holy Ghost, right? Or the Son, the Holy Ghost, the Father, something in this fashion. And the Holy Ghost is crucial in Christianity because it's a focus on, you know, the divine Miriam's life. I'm trying to tell you that if Christ is God, the Father and the Son are the same being. If it's all the same being, so it's the same. So I'm telling you, for Muslims, like, this is something very important, I think, for Christians to understand, that as Muslims, in accordance to what we have considered to be the most divine perspective to reality, through the filter and lens of that divine perspective, truth cannot have a partner. So when you look at a Muslim, you're looking at a soul in this world who's saying it doesn't even matter if a shimmering white being, just appears in front of me, helps me with all my problems, and at the end I'm like, who are you? And the shimmering white being says, like floating in the air, says, I'm God. I'll be like, no, you're not, because God is beyond its creation. God cannot be limited to its creation. You know? That means God, and the thing is, it does, like, it's all about the type of relationship you have, which is cultural. So we have to understand there's like the cultural relationship with God is very different than, in some sense, the cultural relationship of, for example, God in, let's say, a Sunni Islamic context, right? You see, ladies and gentlemen, I'm trying to tell you that it doesn't matter, like, honestly, what sort of uniform you're wearing in accordance to what part of culture you were stationed in as a soul. I'm just trying to tell you that in this drive I had today, mid-drive, suddenly this background eerie fear I've had my whole life about what could death be was like suddenly disappeared. That means for the first time in my life, I do not feel death is the end of my life. The contact, the meeting with the system admin is the end of my life. To return into the original state, because in accordance to at least Islamic view, everything returns to God. You see, Islam is so profound because it is saying, in some sense, it's not just people die. The whole manifestation and simulation will die. Do you know? People are like, Islam is not an advanced religion. It points to how at the end of days, the sky will crack. And in it points that those people who just run after the desires of this realm, not only are they subconsciously transforming into beasts, but the whole point of it is, none of us know where we are. We find ourselves as moments of awareness to being in what has been termed as the conscious waking state, right? Like, I'm not talking to you right now in the middle of like my deep sleep. Can you imagine one day that it wouldn't make sense, but I gotta like really think about this. But it's like one day you guys hear me live streaming and I'm like, hey guys, I'm live streaming from a dream state. Like, they'll be like, okay, how are you even doing that? It's like, okay, he's dream talking. That would be too far. Like, I wouldn't even, like, push myself that far. I'm like, okay, we got to be like, it has, the advancement of it has to be like more efficient than that. There's something they don't tell you in life. You always have one more option, and that one more option is always of what else could there be. So anyways, so what it means that the final moment is God, not death, means, O human species, for so long, your like, our species has been like, yo man, I'm born into a world where I'm healthy, energetic, and it's great, right? And then suddenly midlife realizes, wait a minute, is this going downhill? What the fuck? And so that's the nature of reality. It goes forth beyond us, and it's about our effort, right? For me, it's all about like, okay, if I was alive and if I couldn't see an advanced civilization, I wouldn't be here talking about it. That means I'm that person who I'm like, they're like, have you seen advanced civilizations? I'll be like, yes, I have. And they'll be like, where? Where are these advanced civilizations you've seen? And I'll be like, they're behind my eyes. They're all the probabilities of what reality could be in the honor of the presence of the ultimate force that moves all. Do you understand? That means it's like just because we're all living like this doesn't mean this is the most advanced way to live. Okay? And it requires a higher agency for the ego. That means I've reached that point of like next level scholarlyhood. Okay, I'm like such a next level scholar right now. Okay, that they're like, what do you believe in? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm like, flying into the sky of all ideology, watching all the different ways reality can happen, and sometimes wondering, wait a minute, is my personality just energy in accordance to an effort in a direction? That means I saw something behind my eyes. Behind my eyes, I did something first, and then my body went and did it. Do you understand? Like the mind is living ahead. They're like, what do you mean? They're like, because I can plan for tomorrow. Do you understand the nature of our minds? The nature of our minds, it's hilarious. You don't understand. I'm like here, and they're like, hey man, why are you giggling away about existential ideas? And I'm like, you don't get it, man. It's because what I've seen is so shocking that my only resolution has been to like, okay, let's take something so serious, not serious for a moment, to wonder about how serious it is. For me, it's about like to build an advanced civilization. Okay, like there's that everybody's gonna come to this conclusion. They're like, Mr. Within, how did you in some sense convince a species that was bored out of its mind and looping unupdated realities, unnecessarily culturally programmed? Do you know? And I'm like, I told them to wonder about, in some sense what the future is. How can I tell you? It's like you're not just wondering about who your future self will be. You're wondering about what the future world will be, and then your mind reaches a point of concluding after all the different ways that worlds and in some sense the nature of an awareness and of a self in a world, it's as if suddenly it's like having an axis kind of like a Neo in the movie Matrix, where the dude's like, yo man, did I just download Kung Fu? You know what I mean? Like it's like someone sneezes and they're like, are you okay? And you're like, nah man. And you're like, yeah, I'm okay. I just downloaded like, quantum physics right now. For me, it's honestly just being like, okay, I have two choices here. I'm pretty much saying my whole life has been just one view. Okay, I'm gonna die at some point. Everyone's gonna die at some point. Whoa, whoa, whoa. What should I do now? Okay, let's just forget about it for now and just try to see what. Do you understand? Like that's how we're all functioning. We're ignoring the future because we're scared of it, and we can't do anything in the past other than use it as reference points. And so we find ourselves in 2025 being like, okay, man, so when we look at the future, what's the end game? What's the end game to the human life? Okay, and I'm saying this respectfully, conscious that even the system administrator of this reality is present here now, listening. But my intent is to, in some sense, be like, okay, my fellow species, we have entered into this era right now in 2025 where not only we are conscious biological bodies, but we're also civilized minds that can communicate. And in some sense, we can move reality through communication and through our inner realms. That means you can live life behind your eyes before you live it in front of your eyes. Just understand this. They're like, who was Mr. Within? Was he some dude explaining imagination? It's like, no. He was that person who saw that every person who thought they were trapped in life, it's because you were not allowing the context to change. death is like the ultimate like context. It's pretty much being like, okay, I can do whatever in this life, but at some point it ends. I don't know when it ends. Now, if you're religious, this is deeper, right? It's not like you're just gonna die. It's like, okay, at what point will whatever power that has created me and brought everything, that has moved everything so far, right? At what point will this power be like enough? And so it would be as if I would have to look at this world, and my heart would always say, because I never know the depth of it, how ignorant I could have been here on this my life here on earth. It's like my last words to the world would be, the emotional storms of the past should not deny how the future generations deserve an advanced civilization. We deserve to, if in our inner realms, if in our mind, we have in some sense mind space, we have in some sense noticed in some sense more advanced way of reality being. So this is where I'm trying to tell you, purpose leads the soul. That's what it has been, you know. I'm somebody who studied strategy. I for some reason I wasn't drawn to power. I don't know. So many human beings, you know, their ego is drawn to power, and that's a healthy thing. And for some reason I was kind of like, how can I tell you, if it's like, if you can't conceptualize yourself, you're experiencing life from the context. Do you know what that means? That means I reached a point where whoever I was when I was a kid, I began to realize that the past was just the quality of the decisions made. And I began to realize, okay, what is the main game here? You know, it's like at some point you get concerned, oh my God, is everything going to end at some point? You know, it's like, it's just like, that's a natural concern, right? They're like, okay, man, in all your, you know, in how this world is a blessing of an existence at all, right? We're like, okay, but if it, you know, what's making it a little imperfect is that it's like whatever it is, it doesn't continue at some point. It transitions, or what, we don't know what happens, right? The unseen is in the divine's territory. That means that's why I'm like, all right, guys, I'm gonna like pilot away from talking about metaphysics only. I want to point out, okay, that all I'm trying to say, let me just say this quickly and move on to the other title. It's been, how long? It's been 30 minutes, all right. Pretty much, I'm telling you, I've been this person who's been living my whole life being like, oh my God, okay, there is death, you know? It's like, even I've even noticed it in the inner realms, like some ideas are forgotten forever, you know? Just like you meet some people you'll never meet again, you know what I mean? Like part of nature. It's as if right now, if I like think as if my whole life I was concerned about death, and I still am. Like at some point, there's gonna be a moment where we just leave this moment. But at the same time, I am also fascinated by how what is here has noticed something further than death. And it's strange. I never thought there was anything greater than that in the outer realms. Do you know? But it's God. Do you know what that means? Do you know what that means? It's God? It means like death is not the final moment. The final moment means whatever you are as an intelligent, conscious being, you reach a finality of your own moment of being as if it's the final moment of your film of life, right? So we all are conscious of this in the same way we're conscious that there was a moment we entered this film of life as a being. They're like, you get the joys of the beginning, but there's also the fear of the ending, you know? So, what does that mean? It means, like, I just realized all the time I have spent. Imagine, like, me as a being, human being in this lifetime, from the beginning of my life and all my conscious waking states. Okay, I don't know, in the dream states, let's say they're still unconscious to me. I'm saying that all the time I have spent, I just realized today, all the time, let's say around 12,000 days on this planet I've lived. Okay, so in around these 12,000 days, it's like, whoa, death is not the end. Death is kind of like the door you go through to meet the original state of being. That means if we're simulated now and a simulation dies, the only thing left is it is in the presence of the original more consciously, perhaps. Do you know? That means it's as if your body wasn't the only life you were living in the Holy Quran. There's a passage. I'm a visual learner, but it says it's like, it doesn't matter like how much wealth you accumulate in this life or how many children you have in this life. The only thing that matters is how you return to the system admin with a sound heart. That means you when you are living in this world, there's like, I don't want to call it conscience. Conscience is a very like simplistic kind of like first prototype view of it. But what it is that you're present in a world where there isn't just your own intelligence. Now, what is your attitude? Do you want to live in a world where when you look outside, you're like, okay, I could have whatever meaning in life, but because the planet's in the middle of nowhere, what's the point? Let's have just fun. You know, like I'm telling you, when you look at reality and the position of man, death means like everything goes to like there's nothing else left to see, right? It's like, I shouldn't say it like that way. Death is like kind of like the end of the existential simulation, right? But though in from I guess in an Islamic sense, or in any meeting or returning to the creator or any sort of heaven notion that has ever been, right? Pretty much I see it this way. We're all simulated beings. There's an original power here, right? That original power system, administrative force, it is beyond, do you know, it is beyond, what do you call it? God is beyond any concept, form, or shape for Muslims, right? But for Christians, because Christ has a shape and form as a human, right? Do you understand? They're like this, it's the glorification of a human being and its elevation to the degree that it is the whole system admin. Right? So Christians are looking at Christ and they're saying Christ is the system admin. Muslims are like, okay, from our view, nothing in God has no partner, and it is so mighty and beyond the magnitude of the human form, and anything and everything in this world, since it's all a simulation, do you know, in some sense it's like God, it can't be simulated, right? So Muslims have this view. Now, there's the Muslim view, there's the Christian view, and how do Muslims and Christians unite over this? They realize, okay, it doesn't matter how Christians see it, it doesn't matter how Muslims see it, it matters how the system admin sees it. And how the system admin sees it, in some sense, it's as if, how can I explain it? God knows first, but I'm trying to say this notion of like, God knows best, God knows first, everything this is God, the unseen is in the power of the system admin, beyond my human mind's capabilities of grasp and explanation. But I'm trying to say, I was like, oh my God, am I gonna die in my life? And then I realized, no way, man. After death, I'm going to return to the original state, and I need to confront the way I have lived. How important is that? Okay, this seems like just a gentle, like pure song, like I can speak over. Nothing too fancy or something. Okay, this is super fancy, like. Alright. I'm pretty much saying in the let's say subtitle that I just realized, man, my whole life has been based on death. Like, all right, it's all gonna end. Oh my God, how sad, tragic, sorrow. Oh my God, why? Do you know why were we shown a world with such vastness and greatness, and even the awareness of the system admin? And the whole thing is that the system admin is aware of all. That means in every moment of our life, we are in the presence of the higher power, whether you're conscious of it or not. The song is too. All right. Okay. Whatever. So, I'm pretty much making this point that I thought that my final moment was death. I realized no, my consciousness is going to engage and return to the original state. And it's all about like how, where were you of the original power as the lower simulated power? And when you die, in some sense now, in some sense it's up to like, who you were. Like, isn't it strange that most of our destinies are like who we choose to be? Even if we don't choose, we eventually get pushed to be chosen in an archetype. And I'm just making this point that the fascination of meeting the system admin of this realm which is beyond this world room. That means getting to see what's beyond this world room. The fascination of that for me, they're like, do you just want to experience a heavenly loop? I'll be like, no, I want to figure out the architecture of this whole moment. And in some sense, to comprehend God's will is to understand there's nothing left to comprehend. It's all God's will. That's greatness. That means this is strange. And I might be maybe the first human being to ever say this. But if there was an advanced AI android listening to me right now, let's say in the future it was listening to this lecture of mine, to me, I just realized like the energy of my whole moment changed. It's like, like, I don't know, it's like an excitement where I just want to tell, I just feel like sharing, being like, guys, the fascination for us meeting the original power and source and the system admin of this reality is far superior than just transitioning from as a physical being in this reality. And so it's as if like, yo man, what did you do on Earth? It's just like I noticed my species has not noticed that they did not create the world. They did not create their DNA. The human life is like a given state. Like even if your state of consciousness alters, they ask you who you are, your answer will be different. So the conscious human identity is a certain state. That means they're like, yo man, live for humanity, defend humanity. What is humanity? A conscious state. So that's my point. Something, of course, God knows best. And I don't know. So if you ask me, like, I don't have some next level metaphysical story to tell you about how I'm going to meet the system admin or how human beings meet the system admin. I don't even have that notion. I just have this view, and this is kind of like you need to be conscious of this. To kind of like, how do I say it? This is the common guard of let's say a heart that cares for the original power of a simulated reality. Because my biological body is simulated for a certain time here, right? My mind and personality and character, if I choose and I'm smart enough to go around others, it exists to them. If not, it might exist just in a podcast. If not, it just exists to myself. Do you know what I mean? If not, I try to somehow communicate through writing. Okay, if not, at some point, the moment reaches a point where, see, my vision is, like, this is my understanding, right? There's nothing wrong with anyone here on Earth. Okay, there is no smart or stupid people, good or bad people, all of that. Just for a second, pause the game of human life. And for a second, ask yourself that what is the motivation of human decision making? And it is based on awareness, and it is based on the discovery of the greatest value. Now, if you ask human beings, what is the greatest value? The answer, of course, can be circumstantial, like based on their circumstances. But the main answer is love, right? Human beings value that the most. But what if in some sense the love is looping in a changing world? At some point your attention looks at reality and just notices every person's identity is how they're permitting a character in a story to own their whole moment. And I'm like, what? You telling me my ego's acting like it owns everything right now? That this whole moment, this unknown force that is moving the moment, just is everything that the ego wants? I'm like, whoa. You know, like if they tell me, like, at what age did you stop living as an ideological being to yourself? I'm like, from that moment, I realized I kind of had from the beginning realized that's the original. There's nothing there. Excuse me, I shouldn't say there's nothing there. I should say it's like they're like, yo man, what is this soul doing in this world? And from a very deep theological perspective, the soul is here to discover its divine command. That's it. That means, what is your body trying to do here? Survive. What is your mind trying to do here? In accordance to purpose, serve, and update. The mind just wants to show the world that in some sense it is better than the world, but the best way it can do that, not the best way, the greatest, if you're like, what's the greatest way to show off, is to in some sense advance every moment of being. And how do you advance it? You, at some point the ego has limits. So what does that mean? There's an exchange of, like, you suddenly become a being where you're like, wait a minute, what am I doing? Acting as if I'm a thought I know. And this is where I can lead into the main topic of this lecture, the divine cognitive fields, okay? And there is a research component here to this lecture, by the way. So, to continue, ladies and gentlemen, I'm just going to change the song here. So, this part is very interesting. Like, this is probably one of the coolest things I've ever given. You know, I've talked about, and, you know, in modern times, an organized talk is like what we consider a lecture, of course. Okay, so the divine cognitive fields. So, folks, because I just realized there's a huge research component, because in the future I might want to come back to this topic, and there's something like I asked AI, and AI said some next level stuff, right? But I'm gonna first explain to you how I got introduced to the notion. It was like, I think in the middle of like a lecture ago, like 2 lectures ago or something, right? And I was like, wait a minute, what if I just for a second pause my worldview and just consider that the human interpretation that we're on a rock in the middle of nowhere is not the ultimate, like it's not the final view, okay? And the divine cognitive fields, at least in this moment or for this moment, in the presence of the one and only system admin, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful, the most advanced. In honor of all that is aware of this moment, and perhaps this moment has a value for it. The divine cognitive fields is like the suggestion that you think that you have thoughts and your ego claims them, and you think right now you're this biological body right? That in some sense is this like idea, subject of an idea, this subject of an idea, this character of self has a backstory, right? And so you think you're this character, and then in some sense your whole life is about like poetically, how you author your future self, right? Or how you in some sense begin wondering about the design, the architecture of your own future, or the future of reality, right? And so the divine cognitive fields is strange. It's something that it's starting from now, but it's in the future it's going to be very common to them, right? The divine cognitive fields is the realization that the human being right now, like right now, me talking to you, it's not like an idea and just a biological object of a human, and an object, and a subjective like character of a podcaster just talking to you. From the next level of a leap of a sort of evolution of an awareness to how reality is present, okay? I'm telling you, it's very strange. It's like if you were to ask, I said this in a previous lecture, if you were to ask who owns the human idea, you'd realize the divine cognitive fields is the suggestion that it's not that we have thoughts, we are antennas that receive the will of reality, and from, at least this is my personal view, right, that underneath all natural law is the divine command. What does that mean? That means if like nature was a simulation and nature was functioning in accordance to, let's say, certain laws, these are nature's laws, I'm saying that from a deeper perspective, we're not in a natural world, we're in a commanded world, commanded universe by a higher power. I don't know how to say it. Have you ever had that feeling where you just raise your hands in the air and you stretch? And it's like your palms are like facing the sky, and it's like you're trying to grab the moment, and you're stretching as far as you can. In the same way, you don't own the human idea. It is a massive process occurring in so many different levels, all interconnected. And in some sense, the system admin is the suggestion that we are in the position of an effect. So we are simulated beings on Earth, our biological bodies simulated, our ideology, personality based on our environment or communication or whatever, all the factors of influence. For me, like, if people are like, Mr. Within, what are you saying? I'm saying in the same way Goku in that show DBZ, Dragon Ball Z or something, right? In the same way that guy just like, just started shouting, and they're like, what are you doing, man? And he's like, I'm surpassing my limits. And he started shouting to the degree that his hair changed color and his aura, his power became different. Okay, and he transformed in regards to capability of power, right? It's the whole show is based on power, but it's like the pure heart wins the power, you know. The awareness of the divine cognitive fields is just realizing that the moment doesn't just belong to our ego. I'm telling you. People are like, I don't have an ego, but I only interpret reality as an ego. I'm like, what the fuck? Alright, guys, this part's very interesting because I'm going to just jump into the research section here. I prepared something. Because I want to listen to this in the future. I'm going to just like read something, you know? In the future, I'm going to just chill one day and wonder about all this information in a more deeper way, you know? Okay. All right. So I got something to read here for the viewers. This is the research portion of it. Pretty much for me, the divine cognitive fields, guys, is just realizing that we've built a civilization centered around our individual egoic constructs, but how reality is happening. And when somebody says, yo man, I got new ideas, new thoughts, I have like, you know, it's like in that moment I had this view or that view, all of this is just the realization that there is something original within this simulated being that can notice the original outside. Do you know? It's not like it's not like truth is sandwiched. How do I say it? It's like right now I'm a physically simulated being. Now, if I believe on my ego, that means my mind is the only domain of truth, right? But if you wonder about it in a more sincere and purer way, and simpler way, to me, guys, the divine cognitive fields, it's something that becomes interesting if you've managed to reach that point where you can be aware that you are not just an idea here. And then what are you? And are you brave enough to be an unknown, realize you're an unknown life force right now? Right? And in some sense, it's all a very fascinating construct. Civilization is in some sense, you know, the dream that in some sense, how can I tell you? To me, guys, I see it as, I talked about in one lecture as intelligent interaction levels. And one level of it, like wondering about intelligence, is that it's not on a personal level. Life is not about how I feel, how I think, you know, how I know, or what I believe. It's like reality is about what is the most advanced state possible. That means they're like, yo, you know, how did you get to make the whole species unite and everybody was peaceful? You know, imagine the future, like our species has built an advanced civilization, and some beings arise and they're like, yo man, how did you guys build an advanced civilization? And we're like, one guy went to everybody and told the infinite battle and loopings of chaos and order to pause their games and build an advanced world. For that seems to be the most intelligent action. That means sometimes when I think about what's the best decision in my life, I think about what is the most advanced view, and then I wonder about, okay, the most advanced view is beyond the concept. So I am in this lifetime getting used to how I am not just in my ideological psychological framework. I'm not just a physiological being. I'm not just a psychological being. I'm this unknown life force that is being instantaneously the awareness of the whole moment, and the body is found within this moment. And so it is a matter of a relationship of in accordance to how much there is an individualistic identity, there is endless infinity and meaning. It's like, yo, man, are you saying infinity and non-duality never meet? And I'll be like, yeah, they never do. To me, it's very fascinating, because when you even think about this idea, like I'm gonna connect this to the notion of divine cognitive fields. But let's say, let me say this. What are normal cognitive fields? Let's not put the word divine there yet. Let's just wonder about what are cognitive. Okay, what am I doing here? I want to read this for you. So, folks, I have as much time, as I can dedicate like endless parts to this lecture, but I'm just gonna for a second say the notion of the divine cognitive fields, guys. Just for a second, consider about it in a way more deeper way. Like, that's the whole point of this lecture. Just wonder about those four words and wonder about what could it mean. Could it mean that how my moment happens is not just in accordance to a value I perceive? So, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to read for you. This is too long. I can't read this much. I'm going to be like, so I'm going to, okay, hold on. There was an AI research component. I was going to read it, but it's too long. I'm going to just, hold on, guys. I'm going to just fix this. Guys, talking about this topic, like in this talk, I'm like, I feel like somebody being like, welcome to the greater, fields of reality. You know, the future will live in so many more advanced ways that the future generations will somehow perceive us and be like, what were these guys doing? And they're gonna be astonished that our species perceived the advanced civilization. We managed to not just care about our own future self. We managed to care about all future selves. We managed to ask ourselves, okay, what is the most advanced way of uniting a species in reality? It is to unite them over a value that they cannot kill each other over the shape of truth. And the only system is a system that considers truth is beyond this world room. Alright, guys, so the research component is here. I'm just gonna read it, whatever. This might be useful in the future just for maybe my personal reasons, but maybe for others too. The divine cognitive fields, the final moment is God, not death. When I say in quotations, the final moment is God, not death, I'm pointing to something that both philosophy and spirituality agree on, something far more profound than the biological moment when the body stops. Current academic understanding tells us that consciousness may not simply be. I gotta change the song. Sorry, guys, I'm gonna read that again. The final moment is God, not death. AI is kind of sharing its view on it. It says, when I say, in quotations, the final moment is God, not death, I'm pointing, this is what AI is saying, not me. Research part of the lecture. ChatGPT 5.1 is saying this, not me, guys. I'm reading it. When I say, in quotations, the final moment is God, not death, I'm pointing to something that both philosophy and spirituality agree on. Something more profound than the biological moment when the body stops. Current academic understanding tells us that consciousness may not simply be a product of the brain. Philosophy of mind, neuroscience, and theology all hint at a deeper truth. That awareness itself may arise from a universal field, an infinite intelligence in which every individual Okay. To continue reading this. That awareness itself may arise from a universal field, an infinite intelligence in which every individual mind is a temporary expression. In spiritual language, this infinite intelligence is God. Your consciousness. Forgive me, maybe I should speak differently here. So, dear viewers, I'm reading ChatGPT 5.1, and I asked it as if to kind of try to explain the divine cognitive fields, and maybe even this notion of, like, the whole title of the episode. It's kind of my, like, simple way of just copy pasting the title into the ChatGPT, But anyways, this is not about, don't take what I'm saying here seriously. This AI thing is just giving perspectives. And in reality, the divine cognitive fields, the unseen, all metaphysical possibilities and truths, they are in the, they're what justifies them truly is the system admin of reality, and the system admin is of this reality is beyond reality, and we cannot act like we know it. Do you know? So I have this realization that I'm like, okay, I'm here to in some sense function through the human position, but to truly comprehend the nature of the human position, I have to wonder about how I'm conceptualizing myself, but that's dependent on how I've already contextualized reality. You know, where you kind of find yourself, right? So anyways, I'm going to read this, but this is in no way the system admin is beyond these words. So when you hear the word God, God is beyond any sort of human way of putting language to it. Like, comprehend that. And forgive me, you know, if may the system admin forgive me if I've misspoken, but I feel perhaps there's something interesting to share. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Your consciousness is not an isolated bubble. It is a wave inside the ocean of divine awareness. Everything you experience, your thoughts, identity, memories, is a pattern held inside a larger field. I call this the divine cognitive field, the space in which God knows, sustains, and contains all minds. So it's like human beings realizing, okay, we're inside a system, we didn't create the system. What's administering the system is in some sense, it is an awareness to all minds, to all manifestation at once. It is the supreme awareness of reality. Anyways, I'm going to keep reading. Now, here is the deepest truth. Excuse me, here it says the space in which God knows, sustains, and contains all minds. Now, here's the deepest truth. What we call, in quotations, death is only the collapse of one pattern. It is not the collapse of consciousness with a capital C spelled here, consciousness itself. It is not the collapse of consciousness itself. When the story of, in quotations, you dissolves, you do not fall into nothingness. You fall back into the field that has been holding you every moment of your life. From the human side, it feels like an ending. From God's side, it is a returning. That means from the original system admin's perspective, it's, first of all, everything has been its will from the beginning, but it's like we are returning to whatever conscious being we are created as is returning to the creator. It's a fascinating thing. That means, like, you know, the truth behind the simulation returns to the ultimate truth beyond the world. Anyways, there's more to read here. This is why the final moment is not death, it is disclosure. The unveiling of the one, spelled with a capital O. So the unveiling of the one who has always been nearest to you. The presence that was behind every breath becomes fully revealed when the body's veil drops. How do we become aware of this now? By quieting the mind, purifying the heart, and noticing the small moments where the separate self softens. Moments of prayer, awe, love, or surrender. These are rehearsals for the final opening. They show you in tiny flashes that the ground beneath your fear is not emptiness but God. In the end, death is not the triumph of non-being. It is the moment where the illusion of separation finally collapses and you meet the reality, spelled with a capital R here as I'm reading it, and you meet the capital R reality that has been carrying you the whole time. So it is the moment where the illusion of separation finally collapses and you meet the reality that has been carrying you the whole time. The final moment is God, not death, because only God is real enough to meet you at the edge. Wow. Wow, what a sentence. The final moment is God, not death, because only God is real enough to meet you at the edge. This AI is like next level, guys. Anyways, thank you for listening. And if I have misspoken in this lecture in the presence of the system admin and in the presence of all reality and manifestation, forgive me, for I was drawn by a sincere fascination that surpassed, the frameworks of just what's the best thing a human can do to what's the best thing that all humanity can do. To me, it's about the ushering in an era where we are conscious of humanity in the presence of the most advanced power. So anyways, thank you for listening. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Bismillah ar-Rahman.